Ḥaḳmah, Wisdom of Solomon, Chapter 13. Surely all men who are ignorant of Elohim are worthless by nature, and could not know him from the good which is seen, neither by considering the works did they acknowledge the craftsman, but suppose it either fire or wind, or the swift air, or the circle of the stars, or the raging water, or the lights of the Shamayim to be the mighty ones which govern the world. If they, being delighted with their loveliness, took them to be mighty ones, let them know how much better their Adon is, for the first author of loveliness has created them. But if they were astonished at their power and excellence, let them understand by them how much mightier he is that made them. For the greatness and loveliness of the creation is seen in proportion to the maker of them. But yet for this they are the less to be blamed, for perhaps they stray, seeking Elohim, and desire to find him. For being accompanied with his works, they search him diligently, and believe their sight, because that which is seen is lovely. However, neither are they to be pardoned, for if they were able to know so much that they could examine the world, how did they not sooner find out the Adon of such? But they are miserable, and their expectancy is in dead objects, who call them mighty ones, which are the works of men's hands, gold and silver fashioned with skill and likeness of beasts, or a stone good for naught, the work of an aged hand. Now a carpenter that cuts timber, after he has hewed down a tree suited for the purpose, and taken off all the bark round about with skill, and has fashioned it elegantly, and made a vessel from it for the service of man's life, and after using the remains of his work to prepare his food, has filled himself, and taking the very waste among that which served no use, being a crooked piece of wood and full of knots, has carved it diligently, when he has none else to do, and formed it by the skill of his knowledge, and fashioned it into the image of a man, or made it like some lowly beast, laying it over with scarlet, and with paint coloring it red, and covering every blemish with it. And when he has made a suitable space for it, positioned it on a wall, and fastened it with iron. For he prepared for it that it might not fall, knowing that it was unable to help itself, for it is an image, and has need of help. Then he makes a prayer for his possessions, for his wife and children, and is not ashamed to speak to that which has no life. For health he calls upon that which is weak, for life he prays to that which is dead. For help he humbly pleads that which has the least means to help, and for a good journey he asks of that which cannot put a foot forward, and for gaining and getting, and for good success of his hands, asks ability to do from that which is most unable to do any deed. Ḥaḳmah, Wisdom of Solomon, Chapter 14. Again, one preparing himself to sail and about to pass through the raging waves calls upon a piece of wood more rotten than the vessel that carries him, for truly this was planned by desire for gain, and the workman built it by his skill. But your providence, O Father, guides it, for you have made a path in the sea and a safe way in the waves, showing that you save from every danger, even though a man went to sea without regard. Nevertheless, you do not want that the works of your wisdom should be idle, and therefore men committing their lives to a small piece of wood and passing the rough sea in a weak vessel are saved. For also in ages past, when the proud giants perished, the expectancy of the world governed by your hand escaped in a weak vessel, and left a seed of generation to all ages. For Baruch is the wood by which righteousness comes. But an idol made with hands is cursed, as well as he who made it. He, because he made it, and it, because being corruptible it was called a mighty one. For the wicked and his wickedness alike are both hateful to Elohim, for that which is made shall be punished together with he who made it. Therefore there shall even be a reckoning upon the idols of the Gentiles. For in the creation of Elohim they have become an abomination, and stumbling blocks to the beings of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual whoring, and the creation of them the corruption of life. For neither were they from the beginning, nor shall they be forever. For by the conceit of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come quickly to an end. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning, when he has made an image of his child soon taken away, now esteemed him as a mighty one, which was then a dead one, and delivered to those beneath him ceremonies and offerings. Thus over time an evil custom grew strong, being kept as a law. And graven images were worshipped by the commands of sovereigns. When men could not esteem in presence because they dwelt far away, they took the likeness of his image from afar, and made an exact likeness of a sovereign whom they esteemed, so that through their ardor they might flatter he who was absent, as if he were present. The skill of the craftsman also helped to impel the ignorant to increased worship, for he, perhaps willing to please one in authority, forced all his skill to make the likeness in the best fashion, and so the multitude, attracted by the appeal of the work, accepted him now as a mighty one, who a little before was only esteemed. And this was an occasion to deceive the world. For men, serving either calamity or authority, ascribed unto stones and stocks the name not to be shared. And this was not enough for them, that they strayed in the knowledge of Elohim, but while they lived in the great struggle of ignorance, those great calamities they called peace. For while they slew their children in offerings, or performed secret ceremonies, or held wild festivals of strange rituals, no longer did they keep lives nor marriages undefiled, but each one slew another in betrayal, or grieved him through adultery, so that there ruled in all men without exception blood, murder, theft, and hypocrisy, corruption, unbelief, confusion, falsehood, distress of good men, forgetfulness of good, defilement of beings, changing of kind, disorder in marriages, adultery, and shameless uncleanness. For the worshipping of idols not to be named is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. For either they rave when they exalt, or prophesy lies, or live unrighteously, or else readily contradict themselves. For because their trust is in idols which have no life, though they swear falsely, yet they accept no harm. However, for both causes they shall be rightly punished, both because they did not think well of Elohim, giving heed to idols, and also unrighteously swore in deceit, despising qadosh. For it is not the power of them by whom they swear, but it is the righteous vengeance of sinners that always punishes the offense of the wicked. Ḥaḳmah, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 15. But you, O Elohim, showing favor and truth, patient and ruling all in kindness, for if we sin, we are yours, knowing your power. But we shall not sin, knowing that we are considered yours. For to know you is perfect righteousness. Also to know your power is the root of immortality. For neither did the evil intention of men deceive us, nor an image spotted with various colors, the painter's fruitless labor, the sight of which entices fools to lust after it, and so they desire the form of a lifeless image that has no breath. Both those who make them, those who desire them, and those who worship them are lovers of evil, and are worthy to have such to trust upon. For the potter, needing soft earth, fashions every vessel with much labor for our service. Indeed, of the same clay he makes both the vessels that serve for clean uses, and likewise also all those who serve the contrary. But to what is the use of either, the potter himself is the judge. And using his labors wickedly, he makes a vain mighty one of the same clay, even he which a little before was made of earth himself, and within a little while after returns to the same, when his life which was loaned to him shall be demanded. But his concern is not that he shall have much labor, nor that his life is short, but strives to outdo goldsmiths and silversmiths, and endeavors to do like the workers in bronze, and counts it his esteem to make that which is counterfeit. His heart is ashes, his expectancy is cheaper than dirt, and his life of less value than clay. Because he did not know his Maker, and he who inspired into him an active being, and breathed in a living spirit. But they reckoned our life a game, and our time here a marketplace for gain. For they say, we must acquire every way, though it be by evil means. For this man of earthly matter knows he is stumbling above all else, making frail vessels and graven images. And all the enemies of your people that hold them in subjection are most foolish, and are more miserable than an infant. For they reckoned all the idols of the Gentiles to be mighty ones, which neither have the use of eyes to see, nor noses to draw breath, nor ears to hear, nor fingers of hands to touch. And as for their feet, they are slow to move. For man made them, and he who borrowed his own spirit fashioned them. But no man makes a mighty one that is like himself. For being mortal, he makes that which is dead with wicked hands. For he himself is better than that which he worships, whereas he lived once, but they never. Also they worshipped those beasts that are also most hateful. For being compared together, some are worse than others. Neither do they look good so much as to be desired regarding beasts, but they went without the praise of Elohim and his berakah. Ḥaḳmah HaShalomo, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 16. Therefore, by these they were rightly punished and tortured by a multitude of beasts. Instead of this punishment, dealing favorably with your own people, you prepared for them delicacies for food, even quails to arouse their appetite, so that they, desiring food, due to the ugly sight of the beasts sent among them, might loathe even that which they desired. But these, suffering hardship for a short time, might be partakers of delicacies. For it was necessary that upon those oppressors suffering should come, which they could not avoid. But to these it should only be shown how their enemies were punished. For when the fearful fierceness of beasts came upon them, and they perished with the stings of writhing serpents, your wrath did not endure forever, but they were troubled for a little while, that they might be warned, receiving a sign of deliverance to remind them of the command of your law. For he who turned himself toward it was not saved by that which he saw, but by you, who are the Savior of all. And in this you made your enemies confess that it is you who delivers from all evil. For the biting of locusts and flies killed them, neither was there found any healing for their life, for they deserved to be punished by such. But your sons were not overcome by the very fangs of venomous serpents, for your kindness was continually upon them and healed them. For they were pierced that they should remember your words, and were quickly delivered, so not to fall into deep forgetfulness, that they remember your goodness. For it was neither herb nor poultice that healed them, but your word, O Yahweh, that heals all. For you have power of life and death. You lead to the gates of Sheol and bring up again. Because of his evil a man kills, and the spirit when it is gone does not return, neither the being that is taken up comes again. But it is impossible to escape your hand. For the wicked that denied to know you were beaten by the strength of your arm. They were pursued with strange rains, hail, and showers that they could not avoid, and they were consumed by fire. For the fire, which is most astounding, had more force in the water that quenches all. For the world fights for the righteous. For at one time the flame was restrained, that it might not consume the beasts that were sent against the wicked. But seeing this, they might see that they were punished with the judgment of Elohim. And at another time it burns stronger than fire, even in the midst of water, that it might destroy the increase of an unrighteous land. Instead, you fed your own people with food of messengers, and sent them bread from the Shamayim, prepared without their labor, able to content every delight, and pleasant to every taste. For your sustenance revealed your sweetness toward your children, and serving to the appetite of the eater, rendered itself to every man's liking. But snow and ice endured the fire without melting, that they might know that fire burning in the hail and flashing in the rain destroyed the increase of their enemies. But this again forgot even its own strength, that the righteous might be nourished. For the creation that serves you, the Maker, increases its strength against the unrighteous for their punishment, and diminishes its strength for the benefit of those who put their trust in you. Therefore, even then was it changed into all forms, and was obedient to your favor, who sustains all, according to the desire of those who had need, that your children, O Yahweh, whom you love, might know that it is not the growing of crops that nourishes man, but that it is your word that preserves those who put their trust in you. For that which was not destroyed by the fire, being warmed with a few rays of sun, soon melted away, that it might be known that we must rise before the sun and give you thanks, and pray to you at the daybreak. For the expectancy of the unthankful shall melt away as the winter frost, and shall run away as useless water. Ḥaḳmah Shalomo, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 17. For your judgments are great and cannot be expressed. Therefore beings not instructed have strayed. For when unrighteous men thought to oppress the Kodesh nation, they, being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness, and shackled in the bonds of a long night, lay exiled from the anticipation of eternity. For while they thought to lie hidden in their secret sins, they were scattered under a dark veil of forgetfulness, being greatly astonished and troubled with visions. For neither could the corner that held them keep them from fear, but noises falling down sounded about them, and mournful visions appeared to them with a heavy presence. No power of the fire could give them light, nor could the bright flames of the stars endure to lighten that horrible night. Only a very dreadful fire kindled by itself appeared to them, for being greatly afraid, they thought that which they saw to be worse than the sight they did not see. As for the illusions of magic, they were brought to naught, and their boasting in wisdom was reproved with shame. For those who promised to drive away fear and troubles from a sick being were sick themselves of fear, worthy to be laughed at. For though no fearsome matter frightened them, yet being scared of beasts that pass by and hissing of serpents, they perished from fear, denying that they saw the error which could in no way be avoided. For wickedness condemned by her own witness is very fearful, and being pressured by conscience always foresees difficulties. For fear is naught but a betrayal of the support which reason offers. And the expectation from within, being lesser, counts the ignorance greater than the cause which brings the torment. But they, sleeping the same sleep that night, which was indeed unbearable, and which came upon them out of the imminent depths of Sheol, were on one hand tortured with fearsome visions, and on the other hand fainted, their heart failing them, for a sudden unexpected fear came upon them. So then whoever fell down there was thus kept shut up in a prison without iron bars. For whether he were a farmer or shepherd or a laborer in the field, he was overtaken and endured that unavoidable necessity, for they were all bound with one chain of darkness. Whether it were a whistling wind, or a melodious noise of birds among these spreading branches, or a pleasant waterfall running forcefully, or a terrible sound of stones thrown down, or a stampeding of beasts that could not be seen, or a roaring voice of most savage wild beasts, or a rebounding echo from the hollow mountains, these made them to faint for fear. For the whole world shone with radiant light, and none were hindered in their labor. Over them alone was spread a heavy night, an image of that darkness which would afterward receive them, but they were even more grievous unto themselves than the darkness. Ḥaḳmah Shalomo, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 18. Nevertheless, your Kodeshim had a very great light, whose voice they heard, but did not see their shape. They also counted them Baruch, for they had not likewise suffered. And because of this, they did not harm those by whom they had been wronged before. They thanked them, and pleaded for their forgiveness that they had been enemies. Instead of this, you gave them a burning pillar of fire, both to be a guide for the unknown journey, and a harmless sun to comfort them in esteem. For they deserved to be deprived of light and imprisoned in darkness, who had kept your sons imprisoned, by whom the incorruptible light of the law was to be given unto the world. And when they had determined to slay the infants of the Kodeshim, one child being thrown forth, but saved. To reprove them, you took away the multitude of their children and destroyed them altogether in a mighty flood. Of that night our fathers were informed before, that knowing with certainty unto what promises they had trusted, they might afterwards be of good courage. So both the salvation of the righteous and destruction of their enemies was accepted by your people. For by which you punished our adversaries, by the same you esteemed us, whom you had called. For the righteous children of good men made offerings secretly, and with one accord made a Kodesh law, that the Kodeshim should likewise be partakers of the same good and evil, the fathers now singing out the songs of praise. But on the other side was the sound of a despairing cry of the enemies, and a grievous noise was spread abroad for children that were bewailed. The master and the servant were punished after one manner, and the sovereign suffered the same as the common person. So altogether they had innumerable dead with one kind of death, nor were the living sufficient to bury them, for in one moment the most noble of their offspring was destroyed. For although they would not believe by reason of their magic, upon the destruction of the firstborn they acknowledged these people to be the sons of Elohim. For while all was in quiet silence, and that night was in the midst of its swift course, your mighty word leaped out of the Shamayim from your royal throne as a fierce man of battle into the midst of a land of destruction, and brought your sincere command as a sharp sword, and stood filling all with death. And it touched the Shamayim, but stood upon the earth. Then suddenly visions of horrible dreams troubled them greatly, and fears not sought for came upon them, and one thrown here and another there, half dead, revealed the cause of his death. For the dreams that troubled them forewarned this, lest they should perish and not know why they were afflicted. Indeed, the taste of death touched the righteous also, and there was a destruction of the multitude in the wilderness, but the wrath did not endure long. For then a blameless man hurried and stood forth to defend them, and bringing the shield of his own service, even prayer and the atonement of incense, opposed the wrath and brought the calamity to an end, declaring that he was your servant. So he overcame the destroyer, not with strength of body, nor with force of arms, but with a word subdued he who punished, declaring the oaths and covenants made with the fathers. For when the dead had fallen down in heaps one upon another, standing between, he held back the wrath and parted the way to the living. For in the long garment was the whole world, and in the 4 rows of the stones was engraved the esteem of the fathers, and your excellence upon the turban of his head. To these the destroyer yielded and feared, for it was enough that they only tasted the wrath. Ḥaḳmah Shalomo, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 19. As for the wicked, wrath came upon them without kindness to their end, for he knew before what they would do, how having allowed them to depart and sent them away in haste, they would reconsider and pursue them. For while they were still mourning and lamenting at the graves of the dead, they added another foolish scheme, and pursued as fugitives those whom they had begged to leave. For the expectancy of which they were worthy drew them toward this end, and made them forget that which had already come to be, that they might fill the punishment of their torment which was lacking, and that your people might travel an extraordinary way, but they would find a strange death. For the whole creation in its kind was renewed in fashion, serving your commands that were given to them, that your children might be guarded without harm. As a cloud overshadowing the camp, and where waters stood before, dry land appeared, and out of the sea of reeds an unobstructed way, and out of the raging river a green field, where all the people went through that were defended by your hand, seeing your marvelous, awesome wonders. For they reared like horses and leaped like lambs, praising you, O Yahweh, who had delivered them. For they still remembered what was done while they sojourned in the strange land, how the ground brought forth flies instead of cattle, and how the river threw up multitudes of frogs instead of fish. but afterwards they saw a new offspring of birds. When being led with their appetite, they asked for luxurious meats. For quails came up to them from the sea for their satisfaction, and punishments came upon these sinners, not without former signs of the power of thunder, for they suffered rightly according to their own wickedness, because they exercised a harder and hateful behavior toward sojourners. For the Sodomites did not receive those who were unknown when they came, but these brought friends into slavery that deserved good from them, and not only so, but supposed some respect would be had of those, because they treated sojourners hatefully. But they afflicted those grievously whom they had received with feasting, and had already shared in the same laws with them. Therefore they were stricken with blindness, as those at the doors of the righteous man, when being surrounded with great horrible darkness, every one sought to pass by his own doors. For the elements were changed in themselves by a kind of harmony, as notes change the name of the tune on a harp, and yet are always sounds, which are understood by the sight of that which has been done. For those of the earth were turned into watery, and that which before swam in the water now moved on the earth. The fire had power in the water, forgetting its own ability, and the water forgot its own quenching nature. On the contrary, flames did not destroy the flesh of the corruptible living matters, though they walked in them, neither melted the frosty food from the shamayim that would naturally melt. For in all matters, O Yahweh, you exalted your people and esteemed them. Neither did you lightly regard them, but assisted them at every time and place.